their far ends, where they arrived at the river, out of parental reach. One garden of an abandoned house was an overgrown wilderness, and they had worked themselves up into a horror of coming upon dead things in there. They knew all the broken places in fences for squeezing through, streaking their clothes with lichen stains or tearing them on nails. An adult opened an upstairs window in one of the nearby houses in the Fischer's cul-de-sac to shout at them. With a splash and a cry, a child missed a stepping stone in a fish pond, lifted in dismay a dripping sandal, a soaked sock, but there was no time to stop. The others were pitiless. "You idiot!" one of them sharply exclaimed. Phyllis thought with exhilaration that her son Hugh would be running with them, perhaps out at the front of the tribe, leading the way. She ought to lean out of the window and call to Hugh to come inside. It was time for his supper, but she was still in her petticoat, and anyway couldn't make herself be offended by the children's exuberance. She felt with them the promise of the evening, the gathering shadows, the pang of ending. Roger Fischer arrived home from the Foreign Office where he was a senior civil servant, a respected and subtle Arabist, taking off his coat downstairs in a dazzle of coloured lights from the stained glass in the porch door, calling out to his family as he hung it on the coat stand, appraising himself only for tidiness, not vanity, in the small square of mirror with its beveled edges. He was tidy, medium height and stocky, waist turning to softness, striking jowly face, dog-heavy eyes, dark shadow of beard growth, black hair slicked back. The hallway was savoury with cooking smells, and through the open dining room door, he saw the table laid ready with flowers, a colourful check cloth and napkins, wine glasses. Upstairs at the dressing table, Phyllis paused with her mascara wand held to her eye and met her own glance for one moment in the mirror. Unfathomable. Although her expression was arranging itself brightly and welcome already, she was singing out her greeting. Roger would go in first to see poor Colette, who was struggling as usual with her homework. Phyllis had time to put on her nylons, slip the dress over her head, dab l'air du temps on the pressure points at her wrists and behind her ears. If Colette was struggling, it wasn't because she wasn't clever. She was very clever, but everything was a struggle with her. English literature homework ought to have been easy, but too much was at stake. She was supposed to be writing an essay on imagery of growth and decay in Twelfth Night, which she could have done standing on her head, except that through it she was trying to communicate in a veiled language her passionate affinity with her new English teacher, who was in her 40s, slim, equivocal, elegant, dry, divorced. Colette attended a private girls' day school, dragging her reluctant feet each day in their regulation brown lace-up outdoor shoes, all the way up the steep hill from where her father dropped her off, through ominous wrought-iron abandon-all-hope gates, down into the underground cloakroom with its mineral smell of hockey boots and cold sweat, where she must take off her bottle green mac and change into indoor sandals. Girls at Otterley High were hearty and sporting and blithe, gifted with unconsciousness of themselves. Colette was a lonely, tortured intellectual. She thought of setting up, like Viola, a willow cabin at her new teacher's gate, but she knew she couldn't play the part. Viola had to be exquisite, poignant, pocket-sized. Colette was substantial and square-jawed, bosomy, with curling dark hair at a moment when only dead straight hair was beautiful. And she wore glasses. Stubbornly, she had insisted on standard issue National Health glasses with transparent pink frames. "I'll buy you some more attractive ones," her mother had pleaded. "Your father won't mind paying." "I don't want more attractive ones," Colette had bleakly said. Although she read everything, she refused to read the novelist her mother said she was named after. She could guess what her mother's idea had been calling her Colette in the first place. She'd been imagining some fey imp of a child, skinny and lithe and French-looking, blinking appealingly through the fringe hanging in her eyes. Some child who was not her. Bitterly